October 2nd, reports from Israel revealed that the Israeli Defense Forces have started recalling Chinese-made electric vehicles from 700 officers. This move followed a security assessment that identified risks of espionage and data leaks. Under the direct orders of the IDF Chief of Defense Staff, Israeli security agencies had earlier raised concerns about certain Chinese cars' onboard systems, which could potentially leak sensitive information or engage in espionage. The recall is being carried out gradually. In the first phase, vehicles will be retrieved from officers holding sensitive security positions or with access to classified information. By the end of the first quarter of 2026, the recall will extend to all officers. The IDF estimates that around 700 vehicles are involved, most of which are Chery Tiggo 8 Pro models. These cars were assigned to officers with large families due to their 7-passenger capacity. Israeli officials pointed out that some Chinese vehicles have cameras, microphones, sensors, and connectivity systems capable of transmitting data to external servers, sometimes without the user's or local importer's control. A former senior official told the Times of Israel that the problem extends beyond cameras and microphones. Every smart car is essentially a computer on wheels, with a closed operating system and wireless connections, which can gather intelligence near sensitive sites. Interestingly, the 700 Chery 8 Pro vehicles being recalled are the same models that the IDF had leased to officers just months earlier. The media systems in these cars had been sanitized before use. However, the actual controllers of these Chinese car companies are the Shanghai and Wuhu state-owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commissions. They're both government agencies of the Chinese Communist Party. Experts have noted that the state-owned nature of these companies has heightened Israel's concerns about data leaks and national security. Additionally, the BYD Auto 3, which had been planned for Israeli officers, was not deployed after completing network and electronic security tests. As a precaution, Israel disabled the vehicle's emergency communication system to prevent data transmission via cellular networks. However, Harold Menashri, one of the founders of the Shin Bet's cyber division, stated that disabling connectivity features alone is insufficient to prevent espionage. Menashri now serves as head of cyber at the Holon Institute of Technology. He explained, Chinese cars should be treated as sophisticated intelligence-gathering systems. They include advanced sensor systems with communication capabilities and can easily collect a vast amount of visual, audio, and even biometric information about the vehicle's occupants and surroundings, and directly transmit it to servers in China. Menashri emphasized that the sensors and electric vehicles can collect data which could be used to track personnel or monitor military facilities and critical infrastructures. Earlier, scandals had emerged about BYD vehicles activating their engines without the owner's consent. It was later revealed that nearly all Chinese-made smart electric vehicles led by BYD could seize control from their owners and potentially become tools for Chinese espionage. Given Israel's world-leading intelligence and security capabilities, these risks could not be ignored. Therefore, the plan to use Chinese-made electric vehicles, driven by economic and political considerations, was deemed too dangerous to proceed with, especially after China's actions in the Gaza war revealed its deeply inhuman nature. Israel had completely abandoned any illusions of maintaining good relations with the CCP. In addition to Israel, the UK began limiting the use of electric vehicles containing Chinese-made parts at some military bases starting March of this year. British officials were alarmed by the possibility that these vehicles could be tracked and their onboard sensors used to gather intelligence, potentially transmitting it back to Beijing. The iPaper in the UK reported that staff at the Royal Air Force Wyton in Cambridgeshire were instructed to park Chinese-made electric vehicles at least 2 miles away from key buildings. RAF Wyton houses officials from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance and contains the Pathfinder Building, one of the world's largest intelligence analysis facilities. Thousands of analysts work there, collecting and analyzing global intelligence and monitoring enemy threats. This facility is crucial to UK national security. Reports indicate that the Ministry of Defense declined to provide a full list of affected areas, but confirmed that the Salisbury Plain training area has banned Chinese-made electric vehicles. Salisbury Plain is the UK's largest defense training base and is used for training both Ukrainian soldiers and the British Armed Forces. Earlier, Vernon Coker, Minister of State for Defense for the United Kingdom, told Parliament that there was no centrally mandated restrictions on the movement of Chinese-manufactured electric vehicles, but specific bases had implemented certain restrictions. Coker explained, We know that individual defense organizations may have stricter requirements for electric vehicles at certain bases, but for security reasons, we don't provide specific details. He added, "Our policies and procedures account for potential threats from all types of vehicles, not just those made in China. We've issued appropriate internal guidance to all drivers and passengers. Nearly all major electric vehicle manufacturers, including Volvo, Jaguar Land Rover, BMW, and Volkswagen, use Chinese-made parts. Some brands like MG and BYD are entirely manufactured in China. The UK Ministry of Defence's decision is viewed as a pragmatic and necessary step." Charles Parton, a former UK diplomat and special advisor on China to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, commented on the government's vehicle policy and recommended not using Chinese-made cars, nor cars equipped with Chinese cellular communication modules. Parton warned that if ministers have conversations inside these cars, it's easy for those conversations to be intercepted. As a result, senior British military officials have been instructed not to talk inside electric vehicles due to concerns that onboard microphones might record conversations and transmit them to Chinese authorities. According to the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China, Chinese companies are required to support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence work. However, the UK Department for Transport remains committed to meeting its 2027 electric vehicle target. Shadow National Security and Safeguarding Minister Alicia Cairns of the Conservative Party has urged the government to fully shift away from using Chinese-made electric vehicles in military and government fleets. She emphasized that national security must not be compromised for environmental goals. Cairns stated, "The military and government know the risks of Chinese espionage, but we cannot maintain our security with half-hearted measures. We need to see a pivot away from Chinese-produced EVs in the British military and government fleets." The security risks of Chinese-made electric vehicles have now spread beyond the defense and government sectors, affecting all areas and countries that use them. Europe is now reevaluating the long-term cost of overlooking the dangers posed by the CCP. According to a report by Norway's Aftenposten on October 28th, the public transport operator Ruter secretly tested 2 electric buses this summer, one from a European manufacturer and another from China's Yutong. The results of the cybersecurity tests revealed that the Chinese-made bus could be remotely controlled, while the European-made bus could not. Ruter disclosed that manufacturers could access each bus's software updates, diagnostics, and battery control systems. It said, in theory, manufacturers could stop the bus or make it unusable. Ruter has reported the findings to Norway's Ministry of Transport and Communications. A special advisor at the University of Southeastern Norway, Arild Tomlinson, who participated in the testing, said, "The Chinese bus can be stopped, turned off, or receive updates that can destroy the technology that the bus needs to operate normally." He added, "While hackers or foreign suppliers cannot directly steer the buses, their ability to remotely shut them down poses a serious threat to Norway's infrastructure." Ruter CEO, Bernt Reitan Jensen, confirmed that the company is working with relevant authorities to strengthen cybersecurity. He said, "We need to involve all competent authorities that deal with cybersecurity, stand together, and draw on cutting-edge expertise." Norwegian Minister of Transport, Jan Ivar Nygaard, praised Ruter's initiative and said the government would assess the risks of vehicles from countries that do not cooperate with Norway's security policies. Ruter operates more than 300 Chinese-made electric buses in Oslo and 550 more across Norway. To prevent remote interference, Ruter stated that they could disconnect the bus's network connections by removing SIM cards. Reports indicate that Ruter successfully disconnected the bus's network connections by removing SIM cards from the vehicle's modem. The same procedure has been applied to 300 Yutong electric buses in Oslo and 550 buses in other parts of Norway. Ståle Ulriksen, a national security expert at the Norwegian Naval Academy, expressed his disappointment with the country's naive politicians. Ulriksen said, "I cannot understand that politicians refuse to listen to the security authorities' repeated annual warning." It was initially believed that the CCP's remote control capabilities over equipment were mainly intended to reduce costs. This approach eliminated the need for sending support teams worldwide and allowed for remote maintenance of equipment. These capabilities were often applied to port cranes and Chinese-made smart cars. Power inverters, primarily produced in China, are widely used worldwide to connect solar panels and wind turbines to the grid. These inverters typically support remote access for updates and maintenance. However, concerning Chinese-made solar panels, U.S. experts reported this year that they discovered illegal communication devices not listed in product documentation. These devices could bypass firewalls and remotely shut down inverters. Experts have highlighted the danger of this, as it undermines the power grid of the country where the solar panels are installed. Large-scale blackouts could become inevitable. This year, the Trump administration's strong sanctions against the CCP have significantly impacted European countries, raising their awareness of the risks posed by Chinese smart devices. Following Reuters' warning about Chinese-made electric buses, Danish authorities began urgently investigating how to close the security vulnerabilities present in hundreds of Chinese-made electric buses. Movia, Denmark's largest public transportation company, operates 469 Chinese-made electric buses, 262 of which are manufactured by Yutong. Movia's chief operating officer, Jeppe Gard, said he recently learned that electric buses, like electric cars, can be remotely deactivated if their software systems have web access. He added, "This is not a Chinese bus problem. It's a problem for all types of vehicles and devices with Chinese electronics built in." Gard noted that the Danish Agency for Civil Protection and Emergency Management informed them that while there are no specific cases of electric buses being disabled, these vehicles are equipped with subsystems and internet connectivity and sensors, including cameras, microphones, and GPS, that can constitute vulnerabilities which could be exploited to disrupt operations. Thomas Roden, chairman of the Danish-China Critical Association and a local councillor for the Social Liberal Party, stated that Denmark has been way too slow in addressing its dependence on Chinese companies. Roden remarked, "This is a huge problem. We should not be so dependent on a country that has values and ideals so different to Denmark." Given that Denmark is already grappling with Russia's hybrid attack accusations, it's not very resilient to be totally dependent on China. There is growing global recognition that any smart product from China could be used as a tool for government espionage. This understanding is now widely shared by nations worldwide, and a global campaign to isolate Chinese EVs and other industrial products is underway. The United States, as the CCP's top enemy, is naturally leading the charge. In the US, Chinese-made electric vehicles or hybrid cars, once sold under brands like Polestar, Volvo, and Ford, are virtually no longer officially available for sale today. How difficult is it for Americans to buy a Chinese-branded car? If a driver is willing to accept certain limitations, they might drive a Chinese electric vehicle on the road. For example, 1. Not using highways, as the vehicle's top speed is no more than 35 miles per hour. 2. The vehicle lacks Bluetooth, mobile network, or satellite connectivity features. 3. Accepting a car that's over 25 years old. However, finding a Chinese electric car that fits these criteria is no easy task. If a Chinese-made electric car is occasionally seen on the streets of California, it's likely being driven by a non-citizen temporarily entering the U.S. with a foreign vehicle. These cars must leave the U.S. within a year and cannot be sold during that time. For example, Chinese cars have become popular in Mexico, where Mexican cross-border commuters have made it possible to spot brands like BYD, MG, and Norway in areas like Los Angeles. However, most of these drivers are not Chinese nationals. Another scenario is when vehicles are imported under the manufacturer's name, such as BYD, Li Auto, or NIO, which have established bases in the U.S. These companies can bring in their own vehicles for research, testing, or display purposes. These imported vehicles carry the manufacturer's license plates and cannot be sold on the market, but they are still legally allowed to be driven. Some companies even allow employees or influencers to experience the cars. The owner of CDM Import, an emerging export company based in southern China, cited examples where BYD vehicles stored at the company's design center in Pasadena, California, were driven by employees on their way home after work. Given this, Chinese electric vehicles like BYD may have little chance of engaging in espionage activities in the U.S., even though vulnerabilities and security risks may exist. These vehicles are likely under tight surveillance. With a global campaign to isolate Chinese products in full swing, the day when Chinese EVs vanish from the global market may not be far off.